Hi, Alysson.
Hey, Anand, great to be here in your show.
Great to see you. So, today my guest is Alysson Costa. He's a senior lecturer at the School of Mathematics and Statistics of the University of Melbourne, Australia. Alysson has a vast experience working with exact and heuristic algorithms for a variety of combinatorial optimization problems, such as those related to network design, high school timetabling, assembling lines, sustainability, and so on. In 2008, his PhD thesis received the Cecil Award, granted by the Canadian Applied and Industrial Mathematical Society. Alysson is a very interesting person, and it is a great privilege to have him here as a guest. So, Alysson, muito obrigado. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. Tudo bem? How are you?
Obrigado, Ana. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm really happy about your show in general. It's been such a nice experience to watch all these people. Some that I know, some that I got to know because of your show, and it's been great. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much, Alysson, for your words. To start, I must say you are from Campina Grande. Campina Grande is in the Paraíba state here in Brazil. I'm in João Pessoa. I'm also in the Paraíba state. João Pessoa is the capital of Paraíba. And Campina Grande is the second most famous city, which is located about 150 kilometers from João Pessoa. So to celebrate the occasion, I decided to wear this shirt, as you can see here.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. That's the Paraíba flag.
Yeah, and it says
For
Nego.
those who don't know, of course.
Yeah, the shirt represents the Paraíba flag, and it says Nego, which means I deny. There's a story behind that, but let's skip that for another time. So, Alysson, you went from Campina Grande all the way to Melbourne, Australia. So tell me how this journey started.
Yeah, with a few stops in the way, right?
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think it all started. I always wanted to move. I like to say that I don't like traveling that much. I just like living in places. So if you invite me for a trip, I might say, "Oh, I'm not so sure." But if you invite me to live in a place for 6 months, I will pack my bags the next day. So I always wanted to see the difference. As you know, Brazil and northeast part of Brazil in particular, and in particular at the time that I was growing up, it's kind of an island. Like you rarely see people from outside the region, and I've always been very curious about seeing the world, seeing the different, and it started that in that way. I think I think what comes to my memory when we talk about this is the first big trip I made with my mom. She took me to Brasilia, the capital, and I remember being somewhere. I think it was a shopping center, and I saw these people speaking English. So there was the dad, the mom, and a few kids. And I was studying English at the time, of course, very basic. And I remember I was basically stalking these people around the shopping center, like and rehearsing in my mind. Hi, my name is Alysson. How are you? And I was a very shy kid, and I never got the chance to. I never had the courage to go to them and speak to them. But the memory stayed in my mind, and I think since then I say, "Oh, I want to live in places where I will meet these people every day," and that's how it started, I guess.
Right. The first time I heard of your name was around 2005. It was through our very good friend in common, Madhavan Vajapayan. And he was telling me, "Oh, I have this friend, and he's doing a PhD in OR in Canada." And I said, "Wow, nice, nice." And as far as I know, you guys attended the same school, Damas, there in Campina Grande. And it seems like you were
Yeah,
competing to see who was the best student in your class. So,
yeah. It's a funny story because we were in the same year, but we were in different classes. And I think the last year of high school, the classes merged and we stay in the same class. So we knew each other, but we were not really friends. But then when the class merged, we became friends. And there was another friend who came from the same class as Madhvan called Tova. Don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I heard of him. Yeah.
But anyway, they had a big competition between the two, and I kind of got dragged into this. But it was always great. I always saw competition as a way to I don't know, just to check if I'm doing things right. Mm-hmm. So if I was getting a mark that was close to the mark that Madhvan was getting, I think, okay, I'm doing things right. That's okay. Madhvan was a very, very bright guy. He's in the US right now, right?
Yeah, he's in San Diego. He did his master's and PhD at USC. And then he found a job at Qualcomm in San Diego, and I think he's even there since he finished his PhD. Madhvan was a role model for me. We had the same musical taste, more or less, regarding classical rock, Beatles, Dire Straits, and he showed me The Who, for example. And I miss him very much. He's such a great guy. And also, like me, his parents are also Indian. In fact, my father met his dad when they were in Canada doing PhD in the 60s in Waterloo.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And then they met again here in Paraíba. So I know Madhvan since I was born, basically. And he's a very great guy, and I hope he's watching this at some point, and then he'll be glad that we had these good memories of him, right?
Yeah, when I mentioned that Brazil was kind of an island and Northeast was kind of an island, Campina Grande has always been a very multicultural city, especially because of the university. And there was a big Indian community around the university. But I lived far away from there. The university, as you know, is in the outskirts of the city. And I never had contact. But I remember professors at Unicamp later, when I went to do my undergrad, telling me, oh, Campina Grande, I walk with this guy, I don't know, wearing typical clothes from some country and whatever. And even in São Paulo, people speak to us in English and try to, but in Campina Grande, they just treat us as normals. So Campina Grande has always been a very multicultural city. And that's, I think, maybe that's in my genes as well, this desire to live in a multicultural world.
Yeah, few people know that, but there were several Indian families, in fact, as you mentioned, in Campina Grande. João Pessoa, on the other hand, very few families. So I grew up basically without seeing many people looking like me. So you go maybe through an identity crisis and so on, right, when you are growing up. But so what else did you do in Campina Grande when you were growing up?
I'm not sure. Apart from normal kid stuff, like I was watching Anna's interview with you, and I was very impressed. She's very impressive, and I remember she mentioned that she had many talents. Like she could have been a ballerina. She had talent in music and so on. I don't know if I had many talents. I think I was good academically, but I was terrible at sports. I was terrible at pretty much everything else. So
yeah, it happens.
I had a very simple life in Campina Grande. Very simple life.
Campina Grande is known to have a great electrical engineering school. It's very famous in Brazil. And somewhat you decided to follow, to do a very same course, to pursue a university degree in electrical engineering, but in an institution that is very far from home. Why?
Yeah, I think that connects to the desire to leave. I had to convince my parents, of course. It was not an easy task because, as you say, there was a very good school at Campina Grande. There still is a very good school at Campina Grande. And at the time, the most respected rankings in Brazil would be made by Playboy magazine.
Wow.
And even if it was made by Playboy, it was very respected. It was and students like this kind of thing, rankings and stuff. And Unicamp had always had a very good marketing strategy. They advertised themselves as this kind of national competition to attract students from all over Brazil. And that was true. It was not so national, the competition, because I had to travel 3,000 kilometers just to do the exam. But they did have a lot of people from all over Brazil. And that's what's really made me move, was the idea that I could be in contact with people from elsewhere again. And I used the ranking to justify, look, this is the best school in electrical engineering in Brazil. And I believe my parents just thought, okay, let's support him. Let's have him do the exam, but he's not going to get approved. And in the end, I did. So they couldn't back up then. So they were supportive, and they helped me in my first years. They financed me in my first years until I got some grants and stuff. But it was this reason, the reason to go away to.
Right. Your parents, they have a university degree?
No, they worked on their whole life. They worked on a bank, on Brazilian bank, Banco do Brasil, and it was no one in my inner family, like in the I think was the first one to do a PhD. There was someone, but it's a bit far away. But I was the first one to get into academia. It was. It was natural for me, I guess, because not having many other talents, I think that was what was left.
Yeah, and for those who are not familiar with Unicamp, it's located in Campinas, which is in the state of São Paulo. And it's about a 4-hour flight, but of course at that time there was no straight flight available. Until recently there was one from Azul, but I'm not sure if they still have it. But still, it's quite a journey from João Pessoa to Campinas.
They were extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Flights at the time were extremely expensive.
Oh yeah,
so,
right.
I've done this trip by bus many times, like 2 days on a bus to go back home, and
So the first time you went by bus or by plane?
The first time I went by plane. Then my mom managed to buy a plane ticket, but it was quite expensive. It was
right. So you went south from Campina Grande to Campinas. So you went from Campina Grande to Campinas, and I think a lot of things should have changed, and you may have to face some challenges back then. Do you have any recollection?
Yeah, it was. We have to remember that it was just before internet in Brazil. So we had internet on campuses, but this was 95. And we did not have internet commercially. So, and even phone calls were expensive. So you'd call home like once a week and chat and stuff, but you couldn't be calling every day. There was no Skype, there was no whatever. And so it was, I was 17. So I remember that I used to say that living in Campinas or living in the countryside of São Paulo was like living in another country that also spoke Portuguese, because the cultural references were so different, and everything was very, very different. It looked like another country, for me at least. And the great thing about the State University of Campinas, it attracted people like me. So I had lots of friends from all over Brazil, who had moved there. So it was very easy to establish a community, and the course was really hard. So the community was really important. So I remember we would spend Sunday to Sunday at the university, at the labs, I wouldn't have at all the energy to do that again today. I think it was the power of youth and the energy of youth, but also the energy of the community. I met amazing people there. Some people who are in academia these days, but more in electrical engineering. I remember, saying the names here won't make sense to your audience, but I met great people there who are very smart people and very nice people to whom I keep in contact to this day. And it was a great. I don't regret at all moving away. I think Unicamp is my real alma mater. It's where I got a lot of. I built up my character there. Like, it was not easy, and it was very good.
Yeah, coming from Paraíba and moving to São Paulo, you have to adjust, right? As you mentioned, you have different cultural references. Even the accent is different. And you arrive there and you may be considered as sort of a stranger in a way. Did you have any negative experiences while adjusting there?
Yeah, the ambience at Unicamp was amazing. And not only people from all over Brazil, but from all over South America. So there was kind of a bubble. But and the Unicamp is on the outskirts of the city as well. It's actually in another district. So we lived around there, and we were in this international or national, really national, but also international community. Outside there, maybe your audience does not know, but the stereotype of people from our region in São Paulo there can be prejudice, there can be difficult situations. But to be very honest, I was surrounded by so many amazing people that it never really got in my way. I mean, there were maybe a couple of episodes, but it didn't got in my way to that point. It's always these things are complicated, aren't they?
Yeah.
These things are complicated. There is a story later on that I'll tell you, but when we get to São Carlos.
Okay, right. So when was your first contact with OR?
Oh, in Unicamp we had this. We had this agreement with a school in France, Ecole Centrale Lyon. Actually, we had a course, a linear programming course, but it was very basic, but it was good. It was a good introduction. But I really got in contact with OR when I went to France. I spent 1 year in France as part of my undergrad, and there I ended up doing a project with a professor in electromagnetics, but it was applying genetic algorithms. So that was my first real contact with OR.
Okay, so before we continue with your period in France, I think you actually tried to go to Germany before.
Yeah, I did.
And things did not go as expected.
Yeah, there was in '97, if my memory is right, there was this big call made by the government about 100 places for undergrad students to go to Germany. And I was in the best school, arguably the best engineering school in Brazil. And I was a good student over there. So I was very confident that I was gonna get this internship or this
exchange
program.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And it was a very big lesson for me, because the first thing that I realized was prepare. Like, you have to prepare in life. I think I realized many years later what my mistake was, because for some time I blocked completely that episode. I actually got depressed. Because till that point, I think I was putting all my eggs in one basket. Like I had this academic life. I had a lot of friends, but all my friendships were kind of connected to this academic aspect of my life. And I always thought that, if life is fair, I put so much work on this, so I should get the return out of this. But sometimes life does not go the way you think it should, and I didn't get this. By the way, the realization that I had is that this program had a very industrial component to it. So there are some people from the industry. So the students would spend 3 months doing an internship in a German company. And many years later, I realized what was the question that got me out of this. It was the guy from industry. He asked what were my plans in life. And I said that my plan was to do a master's, do a PhD, and stay in academia. So he just put my name out because they wanted people who wanted to. And I had very clear at the time that I wanted to stay in academia. Teaching and studying and teaching and learning has always been my true passion. Mm-hmm. But connecting back to the story, I got quite depressed. It was my first big depressive episode. And as it often happens with depression, at least for me, it's always a period with an intense period of learning. So it was the results came by the time that we had holidays. I went back my parents were living in Natal at that time, also in the Northeast, but in a bit north of Campina Grande, as you know.
Yeah.
And I went back there, and Natal is a beautiful city. Mm-hmm. It's like it has this beautiful coast and stuff. And I remember I spent 2 months in my bedroom. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't have the motivation. And just reflecting on all this. And when I came back to Campinas, I basically said, you know what? I've been all my life. And remember, going out of Brazil has always been my biggest dream. And that was the opportunity that I had in my hands. And it just escaped. Mm-hmm. And when you are that young, you tend to think that things are so definitive. So in my head, I was kind of, I lost this chance. I'm not going to have this chance again. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest chance. And when I went back to Campinas, I said, you know what? I've been my whole life being this model student. And I liked it, but sometimes I abdicated to do other things in order to be such a perfect role model student. Mm-hmm. And then I said, I'm going to do something else. So I started taking French classes. I started taking guitar classes. I started taking dancing classes. And it really changed me. I think the experience of being denied the opportunity to go to Germany kind of pushed me to develop other aspects of my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But did you see a doctor or a psychologist during that period? I mean, were you aware that you were probably suffering from depression?
I was not. Not at the time. I just felt I was sad. But nowadays, looking in retrospect, I realized that it was more than sadness. It was really blocking me. And fortunately, I had this insight that I had to look for something else. And that's what I did. And that's how I got out of it. But yeah, you're right. At the time, I didn't have this full realization that was that I was depressed. Mm-hmm.
But then, very soon things started to improve and started to look good again. And you went to France, as you said. So how was the experience?
Yeah, I started studying French also because I've always been interested in language. Language is one of my. I said that I didn't have passions before or talents before. Maybe language can be. I can put that somehow in a talent basket. But I started studying French, and Unicamp had this agreement, as I said, with some schools in France, in Lyon, and and I applied for it, and the university selected me. And I was so happy, like, okay, this happened. I moved on. I learned lots of stuff, and now I'm going. And then that was the year when there was a big devaluation of the real with respect to the dollar.
Yeah.
And it was 99.
Yeah, I remember that clearly.
Correct.
Yeah.
And basically, the university said, well, sorry, with this price of the dollar, we cannot afford to send you guys anymore. So it was a second coup. But at that time, I was already more
mature.
I got sad, but I was already more, I've been there. Second time, as Cat Stevens sing, the first cut is the deepest, right? But something very amazing happened. The school in France, Ecole Centrale Lyon, and I'm very thankful for them. They said, "Oh, we understand the situation that the country is going right now. We are going to finance these students," and they financed me, and I end up going to France, and that's where I took that course in another course in OR, and that's when I basically decided, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to study.
Right. You also met someone there in France?
Yeah. Well, I met lots of people. Like it was a dream coming true. Like to be surrounded by people who were completely different from me, and who spoke all the languages, who came from a multitude of countries. And in particular, I met one girl. Like I met this Spanish Canadian. Actually, she was. She also had the citizenship from Canada, and we did not start a relationship there. But when I went back to Brazil, we started a relationship, a long distance relationship.
Really? And you had the chance there, and then you decided only after coming back?
Yeah, life is a bit more complicated always, right?
Okay,
there are other factors going on, but basically, let's say that we tried to fight it, and when it didn't work, fighting against it, we said, okay, let's try it. And this it ended up had a big impact in my life as well, because I went back from France to Brazil. I had already finished my undergrad, so I started doing a master's, and our plan was to, okay, how are we going to make this work? She could come to Brazil, I could come to Spain, but then we said, okay, let's go to Canada. And during my master's, I started preparing to apply to a Canadian university to do my PhD. So that had an impact on that.
But I mean, you already had in mind that you were interested in doing masters and PhD. That was all crystal clear in your mind. And as you said, you knew that you had this talent and you wanted to pursue an academic career. But the process of choosing the place for doing masters, because I know you like to jumping from one place to the other, but in the case of masters, you decided to do at Unicamp itself, right?
Yeah, I got depressed in France as well.
Oh, really?
Maybe because the relationship at the time with that was not working with this girl did not help. But I realized later on that I have my mood is strongly influenced by sunlight.
Oh.
So when I was very happy in France, I was very, very, living a very good life. But when the winter came, I became depressed, and at that point, I didn't feel the strength to go anywhere else. I had to go back somewhere that I had some sort of network. And I said, okay, the best thing to do is to go back to Campinas. And actually, I wanted to go back to Campinas because I had discovered operations research. And there was a guy that I quite admired there, Paulo França, who who worked with who are exactly what I wanted to work with. And I said, okay, I'm going to go back to Campinas and I'm going to ask Paulo to be my supervisor, my master supervisor. And Paulo at the time was, or at least he said he was planning on retiring already, not taking students. So I had to do a bit of convincing to get him to accept me as a student, but I did. And I'm very glad that I did, because I ended up studying with him and learning big deal from Paulo in all aspects of life, academia and outside academia.
Oh, great. Yeah. So what did you study during the master's?
Paulo had this project, Paulo França had this project with CPFL, that's energy provider in São Paulo. And they were studying the planning of the secondary distribution network, that is basically the low voltage network. So you get the power plants that send in high voltage to the substations. And our goal was to design the part of this high level network that came to the substation within the city, and from there to the house. And it was a very interesting problem, because from the substation to the house, it has to go still through my street transformer. So the problem was kind of locating these street transformers while cabling and doing the network for this high voltage that goes from the substation to the street transformer, and from the street transformer to the houses. So it was a network design problem with some sort of facility location. So we called it two-level network design, but yeah, some sort of. It was an applied project with all these, with all the difficulties and the joys of being an applied problem, right? I remember when I was 1 month to my thesis defense, to my master thesis defense, we had a meeting with the CPFL, and they said, "Oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you this," and this little bit of information that we didn't think it was relevant, but it basically meant that a bunch of variables that I was treating as integer suddenly became continue. And in that case, it eased up the problem, but anyway, it changed completely a few approaches that we had.
Right. So what did you implement? It was heuristic, models. What did you do?
A former student of Paulo, he had a heuristic. It was a decomposition heuristic. Basically, he decomposed the problem in 3 stages. The routing of the high voltage network, the location of the transformers, and the routing of the secondary network. It was a very smart, very smart way to recognize the key aspects of the problem, but of course you lose some sort of the integration. So what we did was to look at the problem from still my phone is falling down, but still using this decomposition, but trying to integrate a little bit more the problem, and using some linear programming in some stages. So it was a sort of math heuristic before or a math-based heuristic.
Right. Yeah. 2 stages.
We published it many. Yeah, we published it many years later, because when I finished my master's, I went right away for my PhD, so I didn't have time to write the paper. And many years later, I came back and I said, I should work on that again. And I basically wrote the paper, and it ended up being published in Omega, I think. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, so it was a 2-stage mathematical programming based method, right? In the end.
Yeah.
And you presented your first work in a conference in Brazil or abroad?
It's funny, because my first presentation was internal conference in Unicamp, and I remember it was the one that I got the most nervous in my life.
Why?
I don't know. I was so sure about what I was doing. Inexperience and lack of preparation and lack of trying to understand your audience.
Oh.
I guess because I was so into it, and I see that in my master students now. They get so into it that at some point everything seems easy, and the students come to you and they say, "Oh, this and this and this," and you have to say, "Stop!" Like, last time I thought about this was last week. So tell me what's going on. Give me some context. And I think what I did was that I had this big mathematical model that for me was kind of, I spent months with it. So it was like reading in Portuguese or in English. And I think I presented it expecting some better reaction. And this audience was not even operation research people, was electrical engineers themselves. So I think I just looked at the audience and I got scared. Anyway, but the first paper that I presented later on, I think was in optimization days in Montreal. But then I was already in my PhD.
Okay. Apparently, you got the help of your advisor to find a position in Montreal, right?
Yeah, it was. I wanted to go to Canada, right? And again, inexperience and being young and foolish and young and not knowing much, I just thought that I would write to people, and I started writing to studying the universities, the curriculum, and writing to professors elsewhere all over Canada. And some answered me, some didn't. I had one kind of position in mind in Waterloo, and the guy was very nice in his contacts. But one day, having a course with Paulo, I had the brilliant idea of mentioning to him that was my plan. And he said, "I know someone who is very good in Montreal. I can recommend you if you like." And at that point, I didn't even know who this person was. I just knew that Paulo said that he was good. And I said, "Yeah, sure. Montreal looks good." My thing was Montreal. Montreal looks beautiful, and it speaks French. I speak French, so that can be a nice thing. And this person was Gilberto Laporte. And Paulo...
He may be good.
He is good. And Paulo is an incredible person. He's a good friend. We communicate on a weekly basis via text message.
Great.
And at that time, we didn't know each other that much. I had been with him for 6 months or something like that. And he might have, I believe he wrote a very nice email to Laporte about me because he forwarded me Laporte's answer without his email, but just the Laporte's answer saying, "I'm very interested. Tell him to do this, this, and this." That was, like how to apply and stuff. And that's how I ended up in Montreal.
Wonderful. And of course, again, it's a long journey from Campinas all the way to Montreal. And again, you have to adjust. And you mentioned you have problems with lack of sun that maybe affect your mood. And during the winter there, I'm sure sun could be missing from your everyday life and so on. Tell me, how was your experience in general of doing a PhD there?
Yeah, no, you're right. I have to touch on this point. When I came back to France, I remember my mental decision was I will never go outside of Brazil, or at least I don't want to go out of Brazil alone anymore, because I felt that being depressed somewhere, being alone, was very, very hard. Being in a different country and facing a depressive episode was very hard. At that time, I don't think I had realized yet that it was connected to the sunlight. I should have, because even in France, when the winter went off, I got better. But anyway, But this time I was moving there with Raquel, this Spanish girlfriend. And I was feeling more confident, and actually I started my PhD, and everything was amazing. Like I did well in the courses, and the community was great. I think that's the CRELT. At the time it was the CRT, the Center for Research in Transportation. It's an amazing place. Like I had my office, and then I shared my office with some very nice people, and we were surrounded by these household names in optimization. So at that point, I already knew who these people were, and it was such a privilege. But on top of that, on top of the privilege of being surrounded, and most people, all these people had this open door policy where you could just jump in, and Laporte was my office was in front of the printer, and Laporte was always printing something, so we would see each other multiple times a day. So it was great. But on top of that, there was a community there. As I mentioned with Unicamp, it also happened in Canada. We developed a community of people who became very good friends. I was watching your show with Maria Batara, and she mentioned something like that, like the connections that you make, the friends that you make when you are abroad. They are very strong connections, and I was very fortunate to be around the people that I was. Just to cite a few names. There was, and now these people now are professors or lecturers all over the world, right? So Marie-Ève Rancourt was there. She's now at HEC Montreal. Julie Paquette was there. Daniel Alois was there. Caroline Rocha was there. Claudio Contardo was there. Gerardo Berbeglia was there. So we are all part of the same cohort, and it was great. It was just great. But this was the positive side. The negative side is that my relationship didn't go so well at some point. And at some point, the winter did come. And at some point, my thesis was not giving me the results that I wanted it to give me. So it was a big of
shock.
It was another draw into a depression, which was the most difficult that I faced, I would say, in my life, because Laporte he told me, fortunately after I defended my PhD, but he told me the PhD is the most difficult thing that you're going to do in your life. The day I defended, so right from now on, things are going to be easier. And I completely agree with him. The PhD is can be very challenging, very, very draining, because, I had this grant from Brazil, from CAPES, and the agreement said that if I didn't finish my PhD, I had to pay back not only the tuition fees, but also all the money that I received. So giving up was not an option. So at some point I was depressed, my code was not running well. I could not give up, but I didn't see a way out. So it was hard. At some point it was very hard.
Did you look for help?
Yeah.
Professional help, I mean.
Yeah. I looked for professional help in two senses of the word. I looked for professional medical advice, and I also I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the ideas, and but I didn't have a strong. I never had a good computer science background. So I found someone, a lady who was very good. She was a friend of a friend who had lost her job, or I was out of the job, and she was a very good programmer. I was programming in C++, and I hired her for a week to sit down with me and put some structure in my code. Like she never understood what I was doing. That was not the point. The point was just to help me structure the code. And after that, I think I started. It's amazing how simple things can make a difference. So we spent 1 week sitting together, and I was explaining to her what I wanted, and then she said, "No, these will work much better as a class than as the way you're doing and whatever." And I started understanding the way that she had of reasoning about it. So at the end of this week, I had a code that was much more organized, and I had learned a lot about organizing code. So I think that was a bit of a turning point.
Yeah, what an unusual turning point. What an unusual way to make things switch and work differently. Yeah. Also, mentioning the good parts, you cited quite a few names, and please correct me if I'm wrong. In some days, you should have been speaking about like 4 languages: Portuguese, Spanish, French, and English. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a bubble tower on the serial, on that building, because you had the French-speaking community, but you also had the English-speaking community, and we would switch between one and the other according to if there was someone who didn't speak French or not. So the standard was French. But if there was someone who didn't speak French, then we would switch to English. But then I also had people like Gerardo and Claudio, to whom I spoke, and I still speak in Spanish to this day. Like Gerardo Gerardo is in Melbourne. He came to Melbourne before I did. Mm-hmm. So we often have lunch and we speak in Spanish. And we also had the Brazilians there. So I also speak Portuguese. So within a time frame of 2 hours, sometimes I would have spoken 4 different languages, which is something that I love.
Yeah,
I just love that.
Yeah. Right.
It was a great community. It was a great people. They are always still my friends. We still talk to each other. Nadia, I forgot to mention Nadia Larishi, and so many people, so many amazing people that were there at that time.
Yeah, I wonder about your PhD work. That one of your papers you wrote by yourself. You're like the single author of that paper, and it's a survey on about Bender's decomposition for fixed charge network design or something like that, right? It's not very common to have a paper that just have your name there doing the PhD. Can you tell me the story behind this?
Yeah, it was a very specific case indeed. Because there was a bureaucracy at the school. There was kind of an exam that I had to go through after doing all the courses, kind of a qualifying exam or something like that. And in Laporte, he told me, let's make something useful out of this. So let's say you are going to study, the plan is for you to study Bender's with applied to this network design problem, right? And I said, yeah, that's the plan. I was working also with Jean-François Courdeau, and also with Bernard Gendron. Even if Bernard Gendron was not my official supervisor, we worked very closely together. At some point, he's amazing in network design, as you might know. And Laporte told me, so that's the plan. You're going to study this. This was after the first year, taking basically just doing the coursework. And he said, okay, so that's what we're going to do for your exam. You're going to spend 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, we're going to have a meeting, and you're going to write everything that you know about network design and Bender's. And I went home. I remember even the place where I was living, because there were 4 weeks completely in that office, in that room that I was. And I revisited the literature, and I wrote this text. I submitted to them, and then we had a meeting, and Jean-François, who was very well versed, he's one of the biggest names in Bendas. He liked it, said that's a good text, or whatever. They made questions during the exam. Bernard Gendron, who was amazing network design, said, no, the references are very good. There are a couple of references that I didn't know, whatever. And Laporte, he said, yeah, this is a good text. He gave me one comment. I think he said, I would put this section together with this section. And because I had divided something different, and he's very good in structuring things. He has a brilliant mind and a very clear mind. And he said, I would put this section together with this section together. I said, yeah, that makes sense. So I went home, I make the change, and I sent the PDF to them, like saying, oh, here's the new version following Gilbert's suggestion. And then he told me, this is good, you should send for publication. And then I sent for publication and it was accepted. So it was, because it was the result of an exam, it was a sole author paper, I would say.
And it's your most cited work to this day.
It is. That paper gave me lots of good things. It's amazing, and that's the thing, the power of being in a place where there is smart people around you, I believe, because if you look at Bendas, when I talk about Bendas to my students, I say that Branch and Bound was ahead of its time, because you're doing things that you couldn't really implement or so. And Benda was much ahead of time because it relied on calling Branch and Bind multiple times. But anyway, at 2002, you could sense that people were starting to use this. 2002, 2003, and then the solvers were becoming powerful enough actually to get practical results of Bendas, because you have to go through a threshold, right? Of course, when you do the composition approach, you're not wanting to beat this, the monolithic of the compact model in small instances. You have to go after a threshold in order for the decomposition to start playing its role and being more effective than just solving the model. And I think that time was kind of the turning point. That some problems started to be, we started to reach that with the development of computers and solvers, we started to reach that point. So I was very fortunate to be surrounded by people doing that and to have been assigned this task by Laporte and Courdeau. Great. It was a matter of luck, as so many times in research.
So after many ups and downs during your PhD, you're able to finish. You got a couple of papers out of your PhD thesis. You work with network design, using banders, as you said. And then you got the award, right, for your PhD thesis. I think you should have been really happy about that. And you had to come back.
And just one note now, right? It's funny because now the history tells what stays in history is the award. Like people look at my, you got an award for your thesis, and that gives the impression that was okay. Everything was a breeze, right? But it was not. Actually, the problem, I worked with two problems in my PhD. The first one was multi-commodity network design, where we tried to apply Bendas. And actually, that we never solved. We never found an efficient algorithm for Bendas, for that problem with Bendas. But in the process of trying to make it work, we actually did some maybe more theoretical contributions, comparing families of cuts and value inequalities, and that was what ended up being published on top of the survey for that part of the thesis. And then there was another part that was on Steiner tree problems that went a bit more smoothly. That was close to the end of the PhD. but then went back to Brazil.
Yeah, you had to, right? Because you had a Brazilian grant, so you had to come back.
Yeah,
And then
I must confess that I was very happy at Montreal, but I had this agreement with Capis, and I also felt the sort of a
commitment.
moral obligation.
Yeah, commitment, right? To come back and
Yeah.
give back.
Yeah. So my commitment was to stay. I also knew that I wanted to live abroad. That was something that I always wanted. So I knew that I was going to go back to Brazil, maybe spend, I had to spend 4 years, but I said, oh, maybe I'll spend 4 or 5 years and then I'll see what I do with my life. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. So you went to Porto Alegre, to Universidade Federal de Rio Grande do Sul, and you met Luciana Buriol, who was a guest here, there, and I think other guys, right? So
actually, I knew Luciana from the time at Unicamp when she was doing her PhD, and I was doing my master's. And when I was finished my PhD, I wrote Paulo again. Paulo has been this always, like the great thing, a great mentor. And I wrote Paulo again, and I said, "Hey, Paulo, I'm finished my PhD. I'm going back to Brazil. I'm thinking of these places, whatever." And then he said, "Oh, there is Porto Alegre. Luciana is there in Porto Alegre." And I said, "Oh, that's nice. I'd like to work with Luciana. She's on top of being so smart. She's so one of the most lovely people.
Yeah. She's great. Yeah.
And she has one thing that she's the kind of people that create good things around them. There are some people that have this talent.
Yeah.
That just
she has that aura, right? That makes something happens around her.
Some people have this talent that is they create this atmosphere that it's that everybody enjoys, and I knew that Luciana was like that, and I said, okay, sounds like a good idea, and I went to work with her, but I ended up working more with Marcus Reed. For circumstantial reasons, the grant that I got was a grant that was not connected to Luciana's group, was connected to someone else's group, and I got friends with Marcus, who is still one of my most loved collaborators. He's a brilliant guy. You should have him in your show. He's really brilliant. He's an amazing guy, and we worked together for 1 year. For 1 year over there.
You're talking about 2007 or 2008?
I'm talking 2007. I went back. I finished my PhD in November 2006, and then this was January, February 2007 till the end of the year.
Okay, yeah, because I remember the first time I met you was in 2008, and it was during the Brazilian Oral Conference, which happened in João Pessoa, by the way, here. And I remember us presenting. There was they started the best paper award or something, and then for some reason one of the work that I was involved got selected as one of the works that were competing for the best paper award. And then I was very young. It was my first year as a PhD student, and then I presented the work. It was supposed to be in English for that particular session. And at the end of that session, we left the room and all that. And then you came and very kindly said, "Hey, you did the best presentation there." And I said, "What a cool guy that just came out of the blue, and just said, so you didn't have to do that, right?" And the funny thing is, I knew Alysson, but I didn't know that you were Alysson at that time,
Okay.
And until several months later, I don't know, I was browsing and I ended up accessing your website, and then I saw your photo and I said, "Oh, that guy who complimented me, who I met during SFPO was Alysson." And I said, oh no, I mean, I should have asked you about Madhvan, and that I heard about you. And so that was really, I mean, wonderful, and that inspired me, I must say, because going to a conference and just if you approach someone at random and say, hey guy, you did a nice job, it's very encouraging, and I remember clearly because it helped me to at least at that time to feel better and to be more confident. So that's very, very nice thing you did. So I remember then, and I think during that time you were also already started to work in USP, right? So how was the process of finding the position there?
Yeah, just a note on that. It was not for some reason that your work was there. It was because your work was very good. And I don't remember the details. I have a terrible memory. I don't remember the details. But I remember in this session, Daniel Alois and Caroline Rocha, who are my great friends, were also presenting.
Yeah.
So for me to go to you and say that is because I really liked your work, because I was supporting for them because they were my close friends. But I remember I had a very good impression of your work, and you did a great job. But answering your question, yes, when I was at Rio Grande do Sul, there was this position that opened in the countryside of São Paulo again, for the University of São Paulo in São Carlos, and I had just arrived in Rio Grande do Sul, and they always tell you have to, because these competitions in Brazil, they are very particular, as you know. Like you have a written test, you have an interview, CV analysis, a presentation. It's very different from at least what we observe or what we have here. So people told me, oh, you should do this just to get some experience on doing these tests. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And there was some very good candidates there. And I said, oh, I just finished my PhD. I'm not going to get the position, but I ended up getting it. And then I said, okay, it's the University of São Paulo. I didn't really decide. It was just, but okay, yeah. And the people there were great as well. So that convinced me. I didn't particularly want to go to a small city. Mm-hmm. I'm all about, I like big cities. I like multicultural environments. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really want to go to, São Carlos was not in my options, but since it was the University of São Paulo, and since there are great people there, including Marcos Arenales, Franklina Toledo, Maristela Santos. Yeah. They were already there at that time. I said, okay, I'm going to go and see what it looks like. And that's how I went to the University of São Paulo.
Yeah, and I mean, you had a very good time there, I suppose, collaborating with all these great names you mentioned. I know Maristela, and she's great. I like her very much. But things were not always great in São Carlos. There was some situations that might have affected you, in some way.
Yeah, Maricela is one of those people who creates light around her as well. So as we mentioned, Luciana, I think Maristela is in the same boat. São Carlos is a great city. Like São Carlos is a university city. So there are two big universities over there. So one third of the population is connected to these university campuses. And I love the people that I was working with. They are my good friends again to this day. But it was a small city. It's we were talking before about the stereotype of being someone from the Northeast, there was one episode in particular that was a bit illustrative of this story. I was having a beer somewhere. I was, just relaxing on a Friday night, and someone comes to me and asks, "Where are you from? What do you do?" where do you work? And I say, oh, I work at the University of São Paulo. And the first reaction of this person was to ask, oh, you're the gardener of the campus.
Whoa.
And and I think, of course, right? A black person from the Northeast working at the University of São Paulo can only be the gardener. And I wish I could be the gardener of the campus. The campus is beautiful, by the way, the São Paulo campus. But that gives a little bit of the, but I might say, these kind of things, growing up, Brazil can be a very racist country. So growing up in Brazil, you kind of get, you experience these things once in a while, and being followed in the supermarket and stuff like that. So at some point, you just, you when I was young, was much harder. I think it had a big the development of my self-esteem has been quite affected by, might have been quite affected by this, but with time we developed some sort of,
Yeah, I know. I can totally relate. Being son of immigrants and from a different race, and then they'll look for all sorts of ways to diminish you, right? Either from your color, from your name. So I totally relate. I can totally relate to that. So it hurts you when you're younger, you see, but then over time you tend to, I don't know, you kind of feel sorry for some of them, and the other one you just end up ignoring and you move on. But I know it can be, people react differently, and it can really be traumatic. So I think
I try to look at it from I try to get some lessons from it, and reflect for when I am in the position of power. So for example, we know that about women in academia, that sometimes when Luciana talked a little bit about this, that can go through the situation of being stereotyped and being it's like what we're talking about, being someone from Northeast in São Paulo. It's like, the first thing that anyone will notice is that you are from, he's the Northeast guy. But we are always so much more than a label. And that is annoying. That's kind of what, fighting against being always defined as a label. And I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Like, it can be a difficult process. And
but I think both of us, we are really proud from where we came from Paraíba, as I'm showing here, literally. So I think that stands above many things at some point. And I must say also, I'm very proud to have the Indian origin so it's kind of, at times people didn't know how to mock me, especially when I went to Niterói, for example, to do a PhD, right, in Rio de Janeiro State. People were kind of confused. He's the guy from Paraíba. He's the guy from with Indian origin.
He's Paraíba. I think it's kind of a defense mechanism, right? As I said, my whole life I wanted to get away from Paraíba, and not because it was Paraíba, because it was what I knew, and I always wanted to get away from what I know to get to what I don't know. But when I went to Campinas, I started developing this big sentiment of pride with respect to being born, whatever, but as a defense mechanism. I think, and processing these things and getting to the right level of valuing your origins, but at the same time, understanding that it's just one more of the many characteristics that you have. It's, I think that's the point that I try to be and what I aim to be.
And eventually you left São Carlos, you found a position in Melbourne. So again, moving to another country, I think the fourth this time, right? After Brazil, France, Canada. So you went down under, like
I went down under.
like the Man at Work song. That's the first time I heard that expression. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was getting to the time that I had to do something. I was getting, too comfortable, I guess, and my first idea that okay, I'm gonna apply for associate professorship here at the University of São Paulo, and this requires, like almost like a new defense. You have to prepare a document and stuff. And how do the Germans call it? They have a habilitation. So it was kind of an habilitation, and I was doing that. And one night, we were receiving back then the visit from two other mentors of mine. They became people that I hugely admire. They were visiting us at São Carlos, José Fernando Oliveira and Maria Antônia Carravilla from the University of Porto, are the two people that you should have on your show for sure.
I know José Fernando, yeah.
Yeah, Maria Antônia works with him, and she's also amazing. Like I have a deep respect for both of them, and it was very interesting because they were there at the time where my friend Gerardo, who did the Berbeglia, who did the PhD in Montreal with me, he was now in Melbourne, and I received an email saying to me and to a couple of other people, do you guys want to join me in Melbourne? There was a position opening in not on his faculty, but on the math department. And I could not sleep that night. I just, I had gone through this process of, okay, I need to find something else to motivate myself. So I was applying for the associate professorship, but then these things came, and I said, no. Oh. And then I spent the whole night reading about Melbourne and understanding how it was here, watching videos. And in the morning, I remember I went to talk to Maria Antônia and José Fernando. I said, can we have a coffee? I want to consult with you on something. They're already people that I respected a lot at that time. And we had a long conversation. And by the end of the conversation, I said, okay, I'm going to apply. And that's how I decided to come to Melbourne. It was not easy to explain to people there that I was coming here, because in a sort of way, it was a downgrade in my career. I was becoming an associate professor over there, and I came back here to be, I started here as a lecturer, which is the entry level academic position. And as you know, like we were living the peak for science in Brazil. It was the beginning of 2014. There was money for science. There was, it looks like another reality when we compare to what we're going through now. But so people were very skeptical. Like, well, why the hell are you going to Australia? You're going to lose all the retirement funds that you had here at USP, and you're going to, and people suggest me, oh, just take a license and go there to see if you like it. And if you don't like it, you can come back. But I said, no, if I don't like, I will apply for something else and I will come back. And I didn't want to take a license because that would mean that they could not hire someone else to cover for the courses. And I said, okay, now I'm going to go. And I don't regret. It's been great. It's been a great journey here in Melbourne as well.
And you were mentioning the other day that you felt some differences in the reviewing process after your affiliation changed. So, can you comment on that?
This is like, an anecdotal commentary. There is no basis for justifying what I'm gonna, no real evidence for justifying just my own experience. But as soon as I started signing my articles, University of Melbourne instead of University of São Paulo, my English got better. Like I got no more requests for English reviews. And nowadays I understand, because it's been 7 years since I'm here. My English actually got better. But at the time, it did not. It hadn't yet. So it goes to show that, we try to, sometimes I think we place more confidence than we should on the peer review system. Like it's a good system. I wouldn't say it's a good system, but it's a system that has its positive sides. But we are human beings, and there is a lot of biases that go everywhere. I'm sure that publishing from a Brazilian university, you have realized some sort of
Sometimes
anyway,
I feel that I have to fight harder.
Yeah, I have a friend, one of those friends from the Unicamp years, who is a professor at Unicamp now, who says that when a journal editor invites him to be a reviewer, he's treated like a big expert. And when he sends a journal article to the same editor, he's treated as a third world wannabe. And that's our area is great. I think we have great people in our area, but it's not the case for all the areas. I think there is a lot of bias everywhere, of course. As I think you know, I have my concerns with the system that we have. I believe we have the technology to develop something better, and I don't understand how we are still working for free for these big publishers making lots of money with the job. Actually, we're not working for free, right? Because we get paid. We get paid by societies and by our society, by the taxpayer, in order to publish, review, and send this work so that these big publishers can hide our work behind paywalls, and then sell it back to the universities that paid us to do the work. I think there's something wrong there, and there's something wrong that nobody's talking about it, or we don't talk enough about it. I think with the technology that we have, talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning for identifying papers and stuff, having an open review platform. I have a suggestion for you, actually.
Tell me.
I would create. You can create a journal. Subject to a journal edited by you, but listen, this is okay. It's half a joke, but it's not such a. It's not completely out of scope, if I believe. I'm talking about you to give an example, but it will be anyone in the community. You create a web page. That's how you need to do to distribute PDFs these days, right? You create a web page, you nominate a couple of people, and everyone who wants to publish a paper, they have to send the paper with a list of possible reviewers, and then the paper goes to these reviewers. Everything is open. The reviewers come back. And everything gets published, the paper, the reviewers, and with open space for comments from the community, for anyone who is in the system. Why do we need a middleman? Why do we need someone to get our work and charge huge amount of money to the people who already pay our salaries in order to hide? I'm very skeptical about I'm very skeptical about this model, and I wish there were more intelligent and more capable people thinking about this than I am, because I'm just a a third word now in a first word wannabe.
No,
But
come on, no, don't. Come on, Alysson, you're doing great work. But
some we should think of this as a community.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there is no why. Why? Scott Aronson has a very nice post that I saw the other day talking about it. I think he says that the rage in the community is not big enough. There should be more rage about what we are doing. And just one more thing on that. And the thing is that we get trapped in this system because I have thought many times of just doing my work and I don't have many ambitions in life. I already have my salary. I could do my work and just publish in archive or optimization online. But then my students need the publications because they want to be academics, and the system imposed them to have publications stamped by these big publishers. So we get trapped in the system somehow. And I think it's more than time for someone smart, to come up with a more sustainable and fair model.
Yeah, that's a very, very complicated subject. I don't think we will have an easy answer or an easy alternative. You're giving insights that's very interesting, but definitely requires more discussion and maybe some more thought on this matter for sure.
I don't think even we should be talking about answers right now. We should be asking questions.
Yeah.
And the first big question is why? Why do we need the big publishers to be making huge amounts of money and to have a system where we have paywalls? There should not be paywalls in science. That defeats the purpose. That completely defeats the purpose of doing science, and more than that, doing science from a government-based, government-funded science. And that's what Europe is moving on somehow, right? Europe is trying to develop something, but I still think that's much more to be done.
Yeah. So finally, Alysson, you are a man of very strong opinions, as we could just witness, on several topics, on science, politics, and, have you ever experienced any type of issue or backfire for speaking out loud, these things?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have strong opinions. I might have strong opinions, but I backtrack very easily. If someone comes and says, okay, what you're saying is not true because we need this whatever for these, and these. I have no problem in saying, yeah, you're right. You gave me. I once had a conversation with Lubeck on Twitter, and he made me think of some points. And so I'm very happy to backtrack, and so. But I reserve my right as an academic and as someone who is, who is paid to think. I reserve my right to say what I think, and I think that's our job. The most important part of our job is to think and say what you think. So yes, I've received. I don't know if I received some backlash. I received warnings. Like some people saying, okay, you should be careful by saying that because, but you cannot, it's hard to go against your nature. Like I've always been outspoken and with the parentheses, like outspoken, but always very
open-minded,
very keen. And very keen to learn, that I'm wrong. So, for example, I would love if someone commented in the comments below, explaining what I'm saying or saying some point that I'm wrong. The conversation should happen, and in order for the conversation to happen, people should be able to speak freely what they think, and that's the stance that's the point that I take. Of course. And I have to say this, it was really hard in 2014, 2015, when things were starting to go down in Brazil, and I had very clear opinions about what I thought was happening. I thought what happened in Brazil, and I said many times during that time, was a coup. Dilma Rousseff, our president, was not impeached. She received a coup, a parliamentary coup, and at the time it was hard to I got a lot of people blocking me or unfriending me. But I think that's the price that you pay to, in order to be honest with your own conscience and honest with yourself. And that's what I try to do. I try to be honest with myself, and yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Alysson, we could chat for hours, but it's been great having you here. Thank you so much for sharing all your experiences and for touching in some sensitive subjects and topics that not everyone will speak out loud like you did, and racism, depression, and all the current publishing system that we are used to. So it requires really courage, and you're a really brave guy. I admire you a lot for that. I really hope to meet you soon. You're most welcome to visit your hometown and maybe pass by João Pessoa anytime. I cannot say soon because you have all the pandemic and all that. But it's been great, and I just want to thank you so much.
No, thank you, and thank you for it's an honor to be here. It's an honor talking in this great place that you created, and I'm a big fan, as you know. I'm a big fan of your show, and again, I don't try to be. I don't think about having strong opinions. I just have my opinions, and I'd really like this because you create a place where we as community can start listening to each other and talking to each other, and I'm pretty sure great things are going to come out of the constraints that you created subject to.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. Alysson, muitíssimo obrigado. I hope to see you soon. Até logo. Tchau. Bye.
Tchau, tchau. Um abraço.
Um abraço.